Hey, welcome to Late Night with Larry. We're back doing it once again. I'm here with my co-host, Vince. Vince, give me a shout out.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition here at the Late Night with Larry Studios.
This is where we do it live.
This is where the magic happens.
That's right. But before we get started, we want you to hit that subscribe button so that you could get all the latest content we have. And if you got a story of haunting, a UFO sighting, a Sasquatch sighting, or you want to come on the air and just chat with us, reach out to us.
You saw your mother-in-law in the shower or anything.
That's a scary thing, man.
That's right.
That's a haunting in itself. And you can do that by emailing us at latenightwithlarry55@gmail.com. All right.
Okay, let's get rolling with our tradition.
Our tradition. This is what we do, people. Once again, here's to you.
Salute.
Subscribe. Good stuff, Maynard. All right, so tonight's topic. I was telling my brother, I watched an interesting, it's not even a documentary. There's a series on Gaia that talks about ancient civilizations. And on this episode, they were talking about the elongated skulls, which we all know L.A. Marzulli is deep into that, and the Nephilim. And this episode talked about the elongated skulls in the different parts of the world, Paracas, Egypt, and Central America.
Right, and we've touched on the subject in earlier podcasts. We touched on the Nazca lines, and that's one of the regions in Peru that he mentioned where they found the mummies with the elongated skulls.
Right.
And those will come back into play later in this podcast also.
That's right. We also talked about the Nazca mummies, the mummies they uncovered. Anyway, they recently done DNA studies on these skulls. And the skulls revealed that the DNA is no link to human DNA.
Right, no match at all.
It's not of this world DNA. So how do you explain that?
Right, that's what I asked him after I saw that little episode on Gaia. How do you explain that?
Right, and that's going to throw a wrench in it for a lot of people because so many people are just set on, I want tangible scientific evidence. If I can't see it, touch it, smell it, taste it, I won't believe it. Well, here's tangible DNA evidence that's saying these skulls that are shaped like eggplants
right,
are not human. So if they're not human and they can't be traced or related to human DNA, where did they come from?
Right. Now, according to this little video we saw, they found elongated skulls all over the globe. It's not something that's just happening in Peru. They found it in the North Americas. They found it, where else they find it?
Egypt. South America. They've even found them here in North America.
Right.
And
there was another one he mentioned, it was somewhere by Italy or something.
Oh, yes. Those, well, in the Middle East, too. You
right.
know, well, which is Egypt's there, too. But,
right.
But yes, in Europe. They're all over the world. And they were talking about how these skulls play into, like, Egyptian... I don't want to say folklore, just Egyptian history, right. Because they talk about how the rulers of all these ancient civilizations where the pyramids were built, if you pay attention, all the rulers were depicted with elongated skulls.
Right. Now, where was it that they excavated the site? And I want to say they found like 17,000 bodies, but like 1,000 of them had elongated skulls.
Oh, oh my God. Yeah, see, that was a lot of information to digest, but that's the one that was in Europe, wasn't it?
Maybe, yes.
Yeah, because it was underground. Because Europe, in Rome, Europe, they have the underground cities and the tunnels, and they excavated and they went into one of these underground caverns, and they were saying it was possibly like 3 stories.
Three stories
underground, and all 3 stories had different caverns, but down there were all these elongated skulls, and not just one, not just 2, like you said.
There was 17,000 skeletons, but 1,000 of them had elongated skulls.
Right.
Now, the place I couldn't remember was Malta.
Malta, that's where it is.
Yeah.
Yes. So here's the thing. Also, they're talking about, as we said in previous podcasts, that the ruling elite had these elongated skulls, and all the people that were supposedly ruled by them, they would take their children and deform their skulls to mimic their skull, because it was copying royalty, is what they said.
Right.
Mimicking royalty.
Right. And mimicking or what they thought was their gods.
Right. That's right. It was a form of tribute to them. And it makes sense, because if you look at some of the hieroglyphs, why were all these pharaohs and whatnot depicted with the hats that were elongated? Don't make sense to me. I mean,
Right. Now, talking about the Egyptians and the pyramids, there's pyramids all over the world, but some of the main pyramids, it's very interesting because they were set there precisely.
right.
They're lined up with the star constellations.
Right. With Orion's belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no matter where you go in the world, these pyramids align with Orion's belt. The three in Egypt, perfect. In South America, perfect.
Right.
No matter where you find a pyramid, it aligns with the constellation. And that's
Right.
just amazing.
There was 3 different areas I remember. I remember one was a Sirius constellation.
Right.
There was 3 different constellations from 3 different spots on Earth, but they aligned perfectly.
Perfectly with them. Now, my question is, first, these skulls, the DNA is not of this earth. It's not human DNA. So whose DNA is it?
Right.
Second, supposedly they were the original architects of these pyramids. They built them to align perfectly with the constellations that they supposedly came from. And third, where did they come from?
Right.
Which planet? Now, like I was telling my brother earlier, Zachariah Stitchin, he looked at the Sumerian tablets, and that takes us back to the Anunnaki, who supposedly came to this planet because their atmosphere was getting destroyed. So they came to Earth, and they seeded mankind, is the theory. They took supposedly apes and their DNA, and they made a hybrid and made us, mankind. Now, we all, we hear the Bible says God created us out of the dust of the earth, but the Sumerian tablets talk about them coming down and them being the gods for the Sumerians. And they created a slave race to mine gold so that they could take the gold back up to Nibiru, which is depicted in, I guess, a hieroglyph from the Sumerian tablets. And everyone thought Zachariah Stitchin was crazy because he said there's a 10th planet. How did they know? The other planets are perfectly in place as we've discovered them. Mm-hmm. But the outlier is Nibiru, which they call it, is the 10th planet. And he's not a quack. He's been vindicated because after his death, science did say he's right. There's a 10th planet out there.
Planet X.
And that's what they call it, Planet X.
Right. Now, supposedly being a slave race, they made us slaves to mine the gold.
And that's what
and the
it is.
theory is that's why we are the way we are today, punching the clock, because we still got that slave mentality.
That's right. That's the theory. And if you read Zachariah Stitchin's book, the Sumerian tablets name the creators Enki. Enki's the one I remember, but there were certain rulers. Now, if you go back and look at that, the female who was responsible also for seeding, the female is the one that took a liking to us, and she started teaching us their language and other things, our crafts and whatnot, and they didn't like that. And once they left, they said that they would return. When, we don't know, but it's an interesting theory. And what really makes me even look at it closer now is because they did DNA test on these skulls, and it's not human DNA.
Right. Now, these these skulls, they're not like human skulls. They said you could tell the difference between the humans that did the skull
Right.
deforming, and they do not match because they're missed. What is this suture called that's missing?
The suture, the saddle suture. Yeah, the saddle suture. Yeah.
That's a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is a tongue twister.
Yeah, but they said that was the key thing missing on these skulls that had no human DNA. Now they said the early Egyptian pharaohs possessed these skulls.
Right.
Now, something I did not know, I talked to my brother. I've seen a lot of specials. Everyone knows the most famous pharaoh, right? King Tut.
King Tut.
He was the kid pharaoh.
Right.
But nobody mentioned that he had an elongated skull. I did not know that until this came out.
And they won't. I mean, we've been taught in school, they teach us what they want to teach us, what they want us to learn. We know that a lot of history isn't as it's presented to us, but it's for controlling the masses, I suppose. I don't know. I was never into history, but as I get into this subject, history, it intrigues me more and more, because now I'm like, okay, what else did they lie about?
Right. When I was growing up, that was one of my favorite subjects, was history and Greek mythology, stuff like that.
Right.
It intrigued me, but they didn't teach us any of this stuff.
Well, no, of course not. I mean, you out there listening, if they would have taught you about Anunnaki in history and said, we're going to take history and we're going to study the Sumerians, that's one class, the Egyptians another class, you would have probably came out of high school doubting what your parents were teaching you about religion.
It may have shook your religious foundation.
It may have killed your foundation.
Right.
And your parents may have not have liked it.
Now, that being said, this stuff intrigues us, but does it shake our foundation? No.
No. And like I told my brother, I said, I still believe in the Bible, and my God is all powerful. He created the heavens and the earth. And like I told my brother, we're this planet at the edge of this solar system, and we have all those we got thousands of solar systems out there. What makes us think that there's not life out there? We're pretty self-centered and egotistic if we think we're the only ones here. And and everyone that's a Bible thumper is going to tell you, well, we are the only ones here. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to argue with them. That they have their right to believe what they believe, but to this date, there's been, I think, 15 exoplanets found that could harbor life, they think. But they're light years away. We just got to figure out how to get there.
Right.
Now, if these creatures come from those stars, of course, look at the size of the brain they possess.
Now, their volume of their skull is, what, 3 times?
3 times ours. So their brain matter's 3 times ours. So, of course, they're a calculating machine. We think our brain is a machine. That's a brain that could possibly figure out how to bend the time-space.
Right, and who knows? People have speculated that these pyramids may be stargates.
They have said that, and who knows? And there's different theories about the pyramids, that they're power plants, stargates. But my thing is, the Sumerians documented in their tablets that they came from Nibiru. Now, if we look at all the tribes throughout the world, not just native tribes, African tribes, other tribes throughout the world, they always have their theory that the star people came down and taught them the crafts and the things they know.
Right.
I mean,
they said since the beginning of time, mankind has had a relationship with people from the stars. And one of the theories is they came down and, like he said, they seeded us. They are the ones who taught us how to develop a civilization.
Right. Now, back to Ale Marzulli, he takes this and he keeps this subject kind of biblical. He thinks the elongated skulls are Nephilim. And if you don't read your Bible or know your Bible, the Nephilim are in Genesis chapter 6, and they were in the days of Noah and after Noah. and these are fallen angels, is what Ali Marzulli is portraying, and that's what the Nephilim are. The word Nephilim means the fallen ones. So he thinks that these are fallen angels, and are they really? Well, maybe, because they don't have human DNA.
Right.
And if you read the book of Enoch, these Nephilim fall into that, and they also name the ones that taught music, makeup, metallurgy, warfare.
Yep.
So they named the specific angel that led a band of angels that taught humankind that. Now that's taking it to biblical. And we know that, we used to say that history's recorded Egyptians were the first ones to start writing. Now that got shaken because now we have the Sumerian tablets, which go back further than the Egyptians.
All right.
And I believe they've even found other tablets that take it back further than the Sumerians. So will we ever know? I guess not. We'll never know the true truth.
We may never know.
We may never know,
Until maybe a spaceship's going to land downtown New York and enlighten us all.
And that's right. So here's my other thing. Okay, these skulls aren't human DNA. Now, we've talked about this too. Recently, the Pentagon has released video footage of craft that our U.S. fighter pilots have captured, and they don't know what it is.
Right.
And they're finally saying these are UFOs. Well, so where did that craft come from?
Right. Now, our government's always been good at hiding stuff from us.
Yeah, especially...
and that's why we learn the history that they want to do. One prime example is, people think it's far-fetched, but giants on the earth.
Right. I mean, they did exist.
And they've proven it.
Right, they did.
But what happens? The Smithsonian...
scoops them up, and
everything disappears.
Since modern times, the giants have been excavated. The Smithsonian has come and scooped them up. Now, I sent my brother and my sister a picture of an excavation, and this was like a 12-foot giant, and you could say it's Photoshop, but I'm gonna say no, because if you really do your research, you'll see some of the spears, some of the axes that were excavated around the Iraq area, where supposedly these giants lived and habitated.
And there's also theories that there's giants that are still alive, just in, what do they call it, stasis, like a state of suspended animation.
Hibernation. Yeah.
And there's recent stories, as recent as the Gulf Wars, where all the fighting, all the bombs woke some, and the Kandahar giant.
The Kandahar giants, yep. And our veterans, there's some veterans that will go
and
they'll swear that this is the creature that they fought and killed. Now, back to the giants, those giants that we're talking about, and that's part of the biblical Nephilim, which Ali Marzulli talks about. Now, if you read your Bible, when they were crossing into the Promised Land, the spies that Joshua sent to look at the Promised Land, they came back and they said, how can we defeat these people? For we are grasshoppers in their sight, which that means that they're small and they're giants. But in the Bible, God says, I'm with you, go kill. Now, there's a reason he said kill everything. That's a whole nother podcast. But if you read your Bible, it tells you they came back and said, there's giants.
Right.
And anyone that doesn't, they're going to say, wow, that's not true. You can't take that in context. I'm like, you need to take things in context when you read it, because if not, everything could be considered not in context.
Right. Now, my experience, we have a lot of religious people in our family. They pick and choose what they want to take.
And that's right. And that's what so many people do. They'll read the Bible, but they pick and choose what they believe. All right, let's take the Bible out of it. Let's go back further to the Egyptians. Look at the hieroglyphs. Why were these people depicted with elongated skulls? And if you don't want to believe that, let's take it back to the Sumerian tablets. Why were their gods depicted with wings on them? And we could go on and on and on.
Right.
But people are going to cherry pick and believe what they want to believe.
And why don't we just bring it to modern times of what they found? Look at these skulls. They've extracted DNA. The ones in Peru, I believe, because Peru is so dry, those mummies were, those skulls were preserved so well, there was even soft tissue they could extract DNA.
And they did, and that's why they're saying this DNA is not human. We can't match it.
Right.
Now, we've done gnome projects, so we have DNA from almost everything we know that exists on this earth. And they couldn't match it to anything. So that right there tells me some of these theories are just not bullshit or folklore.
Right.
Some of them are true.
Well, like they say, the proof is in the pudding, and they're putting that pudding right in front of you.
That's right. Now, you could believe it if you want. You don't have to, but I suggest you do your own research. Just like we dig and we fall in a rabbit hole.
Right.
I suggest you do it. If you don't want to take our word for it, start. I'm going to say start with Zachariah Stitchin's books, because when I started reading about Zachariah Stitchin's, at first I thought, what the hell are the Sumerian tablets? But they truly exist. They're real, and what he writes about is they're true. These tablets
Right.
say what he says.
And another good place to go would be the Gaia channel, because they don't go through the mainstream news or whatever. They fund their own research. They send their own researchers,
Right.
And they have state of the art facilities at their access.
That's right. They do, and they bring it to you because they're truly about learning the truth.
Exactly.
They want to know what has happened on this earth. Now, Bible believing people will say this earth has only existed for 6,000 years. That's a time that we could go back and record history to Egypt and whatnot, and supposedly the Garden of Eden. But I no longer believe that. I believe this earth has been around longer than 6,000 years. For one good reason is we have the fossils, dinosaurs, and we look at how humankind evolved.
Right.
Cro-Magnon man and all these other.
Right. Now, maybe the time frame there is a biblical time frame to the man we are today.
That's what I'm saying. It's who we are today is what that time frame is. But even then, I'm like, we could go down a whole rabbit
Right.
hole with this. But this,
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who believe, who don't believe. It's a big argument.
It is. And if you want to, give us some comments or
Right,
or
right.
what anything that you've dug up, if you've researched this, feel free, reach
Right.
out. We give
Now-
you the email. Reach out.
Now, we research this because we find it interesting.
Yes.
Now, are we trying to make you believe? No, we're trying to present it. So, and we always say, come with an open mind. Just think about it.
That's right. We're just disseminating information.
Right.
It's up to you to make up your own mind.
Now, I want to bring a very interesting point from that documentary or that little show that we watched. It had a gentleman who claimed he was one of these creatures with elongated skulls, these aliens, whatever. Now, he's here in modern times, but supposedly there's a bank where he draws his memories from.
Right.
And he talks about all this. He talks about how they seeded civilizations and how everything was done. And, it's kind of interesting.
Right. And if that's too far-fetched for some people, think about all the many throughout time that have said they've been reincarnated and have told people about things in past lives that only they knew.
Right.
And these are children saying, yeah, I was so-and-so in this life. And they're like, how could this kid know this?
Right. That's what Buddhism is all about, is reincarnation.
Right. So he says that he was once one and he still pulls from the memory bank. And that's basic Buddhism there.
Right. He gives some interesting information that, how else could he know this?
Right. And
Unless he really did his homework.
and he'd have to do a lot of homework. But it is interesting what some people can pull, and where they get their information. I don't know. Is it true? I can't call him a liar. I'm like, if you are lying, that's a damn good lie because you're spot on.
Right. Now, we've talked about this off the mic, and, we may never know. This is, they're trying to learn, and we're trying to absorb the facts. We both watched this documentary, and I told him I wanted to watch it again because it's a lot to absorb. There's
It is
a lot of really educated people who know their field who are giving you information quick.
They are, and my theory is, I take it when I was in college. I had to take an anthropology class, and the big thing is in anthropology, it's like Bible's thrown out the window. God don't exist, and we all come from monkeys, and we've evolved. My thing is, let's look at the history record. Let's go back to 6,000 years when we have the first recordings. We could take it back to Samaria, which is even earlier, but let's just do what they teach us in school. Ancient Egypt is the first recordings of man writing down the record. And in that time, 6,000 years, chimpanzees, monkeys, were monkeys. Let's come forward to today. Chimpanzees are still chimpanzees. They haven't evolved. Right. Monkeys haven't evolved. Now, if evolution was a true, I don't want to say practice. If evolution was true, let's just say that. Why haven't
they all evolved?
Right. I'm like, the chimpanzees I see at the zoo are the same that were wrote about back in when Darwin was looking in the Galapagos Islands. I'm like, birds are still birds. And
right. Now, I to a certain degree, I'm real skeptical about evolution, right. But mankind has evolved. Well, mankind is still evolving.
We evolve in a different.
Our technology evolved.
That's the evolving we're doing. We evolve. Okay, let's say if we live in a hotter climate, of course, our nostrils will get bigger to bring in more air and whatnot. But we evolve in ways that permit our survival. We don't evolve from a monkey to what we are today.
Right. Now, a lot of now, like you said, if the climate gets harder, we evolve to adapt, right?
Right.
Now, that we're talking thousands of years there. Now, I'm talking about the recent evolution.
Oh, no.
Now, technology. Now, is that alien seeding? Because they say a lot of our cell phones, everything we have today is alien technology.
And it is. A lot of it is. But we also look at, we stole a lot of technology also from Nikola Tesla, but people say he talked to the aliens, and he did say people from space talked to him. But between that, the Roswell crash, I know that fiber optics, and we look at Bob Lazar, who's the one who supposedly was responsible for reverse engineering some of the alien technology. The government's going to tell us there is no such thing as spaceships and whatnot, but Bob Lazar was willing to go to his grave to say they're wrong. I was responsible for reverse engineering it. So, yes, you're right. Cell phone technology has evolved because of that technology. Fiber optic technology has evolved because we took it and reverse engineered from them. So many technologies that we have today. The computer chip, another one.
Now, I want to throw out an observation I've made. Now, this gentleman who claimed he was one of these elongated skull creatures in a past life, he said they had 3 brains, 2 brains to kind of match what was going on in the 3D world, and another one to see like the future, the past.
Right.
Now, he said his race didn't talk a lot because their brains would vibrate and stuff, so they could communicate telepathically.
Right.
Now, everyone has this perception, like when aliens come down, they're these little sickly looking things, no muscle tone, no nothing.
No.
Now, that gets me to our technology. We're talking less and less because we're texting. Nobody wants to talk on the phone. No one wants to talk face to face anymore because they want their messages on a text.
That's right.
And technology has made us fat, dumb, and happy.
Right.
So it kind of, we're going in that direction like we see aliens,
They call that devolution.
Right.
We're not evolving, we're devolving.
But that's what's happening.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, and you're right. No, it's like, no, don't call me, text me. It's like, well, you don't want to hear my sexy voice? Oh, I'm sorry. Right?
Pepe Le Pew.
That's right. So, but you're right. Everyone's like, text me.
Right.
And we have this problem in the workplace. It's like policies and procedures says you need to call me, your supervisor, if you're going to call in sick. No, everyone wants a text. Oh, won't be in today, feeling bad.
Right.
No.
Now, our technology, it's not far-fetched to think one day that our brains will be in sync with our phones. So we'll just vibrate to tell you something.
And you know what? That if our brains were big enough, we could do that. But our brains ain't big enough yet.
Ours ain't, but mankind might be.
Right. Someday. But that's why when people get abducted by aliens, they said, you know what? Their mouth didn't move, but I heard every word they said. We communicated without them saying a word.
And you know what? If I ever get abducted by a lady alien and her mouth don't move, I don't want no part of it.
Me neither. If your mouth don't move, you're dead to me.
Or else the opposite. It could be a dream.
I know.
No,
we're just kidding, people.
But like we always say, just come with an open mind, and we try to give you something to think about. You know, we're not trying to change your perspective on the world or your religion, anything.
Absolutely not.
We just seek the truth, and hopefully you seek the truth too. Don't be one of the sheep that follow blindly.
Try. All we want to do is broaden your horizons. We want you to start looking at everything, because all our life, we were just taught textbook theory that was shoved down our throat saying this is how it is. And come to find out it's not.
Right. And you know, growing up, I thought textbook theory, I thought, man, that's got to be gospel. But now in today, we all see it where they're trying to erase history because it offends them.
Right.
And so this has been going on since the beginning of the time. It's come to my attention lately.
And my thing is, if you try to erase history or you're offended by history, then there's a reason why.
Right. And the scary thing is, if you erase history, it's bound to repeat itself.
That's right. And that's why they say study history, because if you don't, it will repeat itself.
Right. And we're supposed to learn from it.
We are. But we don't. We think we're the most intelligent creature. Right now we are, but if you look at some of these UFO videos that the Navy's released, I don't think we are.
Right. We're not even, well, we are top of the food chain. A lot of people say, well, if you go out to the forest, you're not the top of the food chain.
I doubt that.
But we are, because of our brain that enables us to make weapons.
But if you
it's
go
not because
out,
of our physical attributes, it's because of what we can create.
Right. And I think there's bigger, badder out in the forest, and they're smarter than us.
I know there is.
And they use natural weapons, and they use them lethally. So efficiently. But you know, that was our topic tonight. We may have went on a little tangent here and there, but just for yourself, if you're intrigued by some of the things we said, dig in and do your own research, because that's what we want to do. We want to stimulate you. We want to make you think.
Yeah.
You know, our big subject is Bigfoot, and that right there alone is enough to make you spend all your time in the rabbit hole.
Right. But if you step back and take a look, we talk about paranormal, Bigfoot, UFOs,
right?
And it all kind of ties together in the end.
It does. It's one giant circle of life.
I was going to say rabbit hole, but I like the way you put it.
Right. And you know, you never know what you're going to find. How do people explain some of the hauntings that happen?
Right. Now, if you're when we first started, we're amateur. We didn't even know where to start. We started off by just talking about it. Then we found rabbit holes and crazy stuff. If you're looking for a starting point, email. My brother will be more than happy to recommend somewhere to start and just broaden horizons.
I'll give you some starting points that will keep you up your whole weekend. Make sure you either have a lot of coffee or a lot of booze, whichever you prefer.
Or both.
Because you'll get on the internet and you'll start reading and you'll find books and you'll go down. It's a whole different world.
Right. And I find myself all night in those rabbit holes, and people tell me, "Man, you look tired. You can't sleep." Oh, my sleep schedule. I'm not going to tell them I was up researching aliens.
I've done the same. I start researching the stuff. When I did research the Nephilim, I was on this kick for, I kid you not, 6 months, reading everything I could, the Bible, the Sumerian text, everything I could find, the Book of Enoch, everything. And you'd be surprised how much makes sense to you, and
Right.
you start to realize, well, have I been fed a bucket of shit and I ate it all?
Exactly. And then once you start researching on your own, you'll be surprised how many other doors it opens.
That's right. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed the topic we bring tonight, and we appreciate you listening, and we thank you. This is for you.
'Cause you rock.
That's right. Join us for our next episode, and we may go down a rabbit hole. We may not.
Well, or we may just stay right here.
That's right. Thanks
Anyway,
for listening.
Peace out. We'll see you next time.
Peace.